all over the room, stand up. Go ahead and make your way out of your seats. Those of you who do not like the confines of a chair. Those of you that do like confines, stay where you're at. It's that simple. It's easy. I was meditating on what the Lord would have us to do tonight. And I was reminded of the story in the Bible where the woman brings the alabaster box and breaks it over Jesus. And although I've preached on that 100 times and I've used it a lot of times, something caught my attention. And that is when Judas has the issue with it, the thing he says is, this oil could have been sold and the money used to go to the poor, to help the poor. Many translations actually say this money is a year's wages and could have been used. This oil is worth a year's wages and the money could have been used. In fact, if you study it, they determined that the amount was synonymous with a year's worth of wages. Now, I want you to imagine that for a second. What a year's worth of wages would look like to you. An entire year's worth of wages. And Judas says, basically, here's what he's saying. You wasted an entire year worshiping him. You wasted an entire year worshiping him. When we put it like that, it sounds stupid, doesn't it? None of us would ever say that, yet we always associate worth with time. Because time is the only thing we cannot control. The worth of what was poured out was being measured by the time it would have taken to acquire it. And in essence, it's saying giving him a year is not worth it to me. I said that to say this. I'm not asking for a year tonight. I'm asking for the next minute to give him a minute. I'm asking for the next 5 minutes to give him 5 minutes. I'm asking for the next 30 minutes. Can you give him 30 of the next 30 minutes? I'm saying for the next hour, can you give him all 60 minutes of the next hour? Can you give him whatever he's asking for? Can you see him as worth being poured out what you consider valuable, your time? Can you get all the to someone, and they were talking about something they were going through, and it was devastating to them. And many times we don't know how to worship until all hell breaks loose. Many times we get caught up in just doing life, and we'll come in here nonchalantly and everything's fine and good, and we'll just give him half-hearted things. But when all hell breaks loose and you get a bad report, or you have something happen that's not like you planned, you learn very quickly what real worship, what real prayer, what real intimacy, you learn very quickly what that is. And I was telling this person, they said that there was some misfortune going on in their life, some things that were out of their control. Sometimes we get in our own messes. Sometimes we get in financial messes, and sometimes we get in other messes that are our own doing. But when you have done nothing, and all of a sudden something out of the blue hits you, like terminal illness, right? Come on. Like your loved ones get in a car wreck and die. Like when things like that happen, you in a moment learn what it means to be real with God. And I was telling them this. This is what I want to tell you tonight, and I believe it's prophetic. Had no idea when the Lord was orchestrating this what we were doing tonight, but this is what I told them. If Lazarus doesn't die, we don't have a story. If Lazarus doesn't die, we don't have a testimony. You're going to have to go through some things to prove that he's God. Because as long as everything's just like you like it, he's not God. He only becomes God when you release control of the life you've created and say the only way we're going to come out of this is by your hand, by your grace, by your touch. Who am I talking to? I want you tonight to understand that the things you're going through are not because he doesn't like you. The things you're going through is because he loves you so much that he's willing to suspend the course of natural law to come into your situation and raise up the things that you thought were dead. Whatever they are tonight, by faith, begin to celebrate that he is coming to raise everything that has died on you. He is coming to raise everything that has died on you. He's coming to raise your family. He's coming to raise your friends. He's coming to raise your finances. He's coming to raise your hope. He's coming to raise your joy. He's coming to
Bible, when Jesus went to get baptized by John the Baptist, God looked upon him and said, "This is my son, whom I'm well pleased. It's my beloved son." And I believe God is saying that over us tonight. And when he opened the heavens, there's nothing documented that the heavens were ever closed again. So while we're singing miracle working God, I think some of us are just singing it because, like, maybe, I don't know, maybe you don't need a miracle. But if you really need something from the Lord tonight, I don't care what it is, I don't care how big or how small. I just believe tonight we're under an open heaven. So I want you to imagine you under an open heaven, and whatever you ask tonight, it must come to pass. His promises will not come back void. His word will never come back void. His promises are yes and amen. So whatever you need tonight, I just believe we're under an open heaven. Come on, let's start off. You are. You are. Come on, sit down. A miracle working God. Come on, I want you to declare it. With faith. I don't care if you can sing or if you can't sing. Come on, sing it loud. You are a miracle. I'm not singing it. We're under an open heaven. You are. Come on, say it. A miracle. You are. Say you are a miracle working. Whatever you need is in the room tonight. Yes, a miracle working God. Come on, say you are a miracle working. Come on, say yeah, a miracle working. You are. And whatever you need tonight, you can have it. We're under an open heaven. Whatever you need tonight, you can have it. We're under an open heaven. Whatever we need tonight, we can have it. We're under an open heaven. He's a miracle working God. He's a miracle working God. If you need healing, it's in the room tonight. I just feel that. If you need healing, it's in the room tonight. He's touching arthritis right now. Oh, if you need healing, you having trouble with your joints, I declare that healing's in the room tonight. Oh, Namaste, underneath an open heaven. Oh, I just want you to start doing things you couldn't do before. I declare right now that the Lord is healing of arthritis. If you need healing, just reach up and get it. Reach up and get it. Need healing. It's in the room tonight. High blood pressure is coming back. If you need healing, it's in the room tonight. And I even feel this. He's giving you joy.
Come on, man.
He's trading it out for depression.
Exchange. Come on.
If you need joy, he's trading it for depression. Yeah. We're under an open heaven. We're under an open heaven. Oh, we're under an open heaven. Yeah, yeah,
Come on,
yeah.
respond to that.
We're under an open heaven.
Listen, friends, when he prophetically releases something like that, I'm going to pretend you don't understand that just so I can explain it. When he releases that, When he says, by the Spirit of the Lord, he says, I'm willing to exchange my joy for your depression, you would have to be a fool to want to hang on to your depression, or you don't believe it. That's the two options there, friend. If you're suffering from depression, if you're suffering from anxiety, if you are bound by things that are causing your attitude and your outlook to be not what it's supposed to be, the Lord just interrupted our whole idea tonight to say, I'm willing to take your mess with your theology. But the world is not, listen, hear what I'm saying and don't hear what I'm not saying. The world is not waiting for Jesus. The world is groaning for the manifestation of the sons and daughters of God who represent Jesus. We're waiting on Him and they're waiting on us. We're waiting on Him and they're waiting on us. So just for the next few minutes, come on, just manifest your glory. Come on, I'm not being sacrilegious. The glory of the Father inside of you. Manifest your glory here tonight. Let the world see and sing a new song. Let the world see and sing a new song. Let the world see and sing a new song.
Oh,
your mind of all the distractions. We're waiting on Him to move. Where you go tonight, Lord, we go. Come on, you want to really make the devil mad? Just focus on the Lord right now. Just focus everything you got on Him. Some of you are buried under. I just hear that right now. Right now, that the spirit of Isaac is here to redig the wells of Abraham. And some of you who used to have flowing water coming out of you have allowed the enemy to pile debris, and there's no water. And what does God do? He sends a son to redig the wells that used to flow. And we're here tonight to redig wells in you. Some of you have been called into ministry and you're afraid because you got hurt. Get over that and realize that tonight He's wanting to cause the water to flow again. Some of you in this room have been playing the church game and the religious game, and you're bowing down to every idol. Yeah. I hear you, Lord. When babies cry, thank you, Lord, because they're hungry, it disrupts the peace of those of us who are not. What hunger does to people who are not hungry is it disrupts their self-created idolatry. Let that baby cry. Come on, picture again. I'm kidding. But a crying baby causes everyone to stop what they're doing and look around and say stupid things like, why don't they just stick a bottle in its mouth? Because hunger, when it's genuine, does not care about the atmosphere that it's in. It knows that if I can cry out, someone will satisfy the hunger that I'm having. And the only people that makes angry are people who have already filled themselves by themselves. The Bible tells a story of Jesus. It says Jesus walks into the city of Jericho. And the next sentence says, and as He's leaving Jericho, a crowd follows Him. It goes from walking into the city to walking out with no miracles, no healings, no praying, no teaching, no sitting down to eat, no weddings, no parties, no turning water into wine, no healing blind people, no picking up lame people, no opening the ears of the deaf. Nothing happens in Jericho. Jesus walks in and He walks out. Why? Because nobody there made a big deal about the fact that He showed up to begin with. And if you want Him to do more than just show up, oh my God, I'm fixing to go somewhere. Because what we've done is we've allowed, now listen, poor shepherds, and I'm a horrible shepherd anyway, but I'm good at this part. The very role of the shepherd is to move the flock to where they can actually feed on something that's going to nourish them. And poor shepherding has allowed us, me included, for years to think the only reason we come in here is to get a touch or to get an experience. We walk out saying this was a beautiful experience. Come on, right? But the intention of heaven is not that you experience God. What do? We as pastors work everything up for the show. We get here hours early to make sure everything flows. Why? Because we want your experience to move you. In other words, we want to stimulate you so that when you walk out, you'll actually come back. Come on, don't we? But that was never the intention of God. The intention of God was that every experience would move into intimacy. This is the perversion. I was sharing this with someone this morning. This is the perversion of what we've allowed to happen. Is the perversion of fornication is this: it feels good, so I'm going to do it regardless of the covenant I'm in. But more part of that than just how it feels. The point of it completely is that in covenant you can begin to reproduce something. That's the point of intimacy. Come on, amen? An expression of love that would produce something. But instead of wanting to be impregnated, I do this every time we have kids in the room. Every time. You hear what I'm saying? This is not for you to experience God. This is created for you to come into intimacy so that you don't walk out saying, man, that felt good. I may come back again next week. It makes you walk out and say, something's growing on the inside of me. So I think something's moving on the inside of me. In fact, tomorrow when you get up, come on, how many pregnant ladies or who have been pregnant can relate to this? And your cravings start to change. Come on, you get up at 3 in the morning and you're craving pickle and mayonnaise sandwiches. And you're shaking people and waking the house up and getting up at 4 and vacuuming. Come on, who am I talking to? Why? Because something inside of you is crying out so that you would then feed the thing inside of you. Come on. What it wants instead of what you want. Your cravings begin to change. Why? Because you didn't just experience God. You allowed Him to get intimate with you, and He put something down on the inside of you that changes everything about you. You can try to quit smoking for years, but I've seen women that the minute they get pregnant can put them down. Why? Because the thing inside of them was more important than their own ability to lay something down. Come on, man. He's wanting to do more than just stimulate you tonight. I don't want you to ever walk out of here and say it was a good service. I want you to walk out of here knocked up. Come on. Yeah. Come on. Can I say that? Come on. I want you carrying something. I want when people see you tomorrow say, how far along are you? Come on, amen. I know that's cliche and that's weird sounding, but I so want you to understand that there is something that we can get to, that when He shows up, He doesn't bypass and leave us not having seen or done anything. He leaves Jericho, the Bible says. I'm preaching my whole sermon tonight. So if you thought we were, this is it. So this is it. This is the main course. He leaves Jericho, and the Bible says, as Him and the followers are leaving Jericho, it's mind-blowing to me that the people that were with Him didn't persuade Him to stay either. Right? That happens, huh? Jesus shows up, and the night Jesus shows up, half the church leaves. Why? Because we didn't want Him to stay anyway. We still got to take up the offering, by God. They leave, and the Bible says that there was on the side of the road a blind man whose name was Bartimaeus. And when Bartimaeus had heard that Jesus was passing by, he cried out to Jesus saying, Son of David, have mercy on me. Son of David, have mercy on me. When the followers of Jesus heard Him, He disrupted their parade, and so they turned to Him and said, shh, be quiet. Why are you doing this? Stick a bottle in his mouth. Why is he disrupting our parade? Stick a bottle in his mouth. I know he's hungry, but we're not, so quit expecting us to stay past 7:30. Stick a bottle in his mouth. And the Bible says, and he cries out the more, Son of David, have mercy on us. And the Bible says that Jesus stops and turns His attention to the man. And He says this, He says, bring him to me. This is interesting to me because we've been talking the last 2 weeks or so about the difference between faith and trust. Because faith says, I believe in the Word of God. I believe everything He says He can do, He can do. Trust is different. Trust says, I believe He'll do it for me. Yeah, I know you can say, but will you save my unloved ones? Or my loved ones, excuse me. Sometimes I don't love them. Will you save my unloved ones? Will you save my loved ones? Come on, I trust that you care about me. The most beautiful, this so hit me today while I was studying. The most beautiful form of trust is blindness. When you can't see where you're going and you put your hand in someone else's hand and say, take me where I need to be. Now this man trusted the opinion of someone else who said Jesus is coming, because he couldn't see him. Jesus is coming. And without being able to see the answer, he began to disrupt their parade because he trusted that the opinion of, my God, that the opinion of someone else concerning Jesus was true enough for him to make a fool of himself. Well, I don't believe in all that stuff. That's fine. You don't have to believe in it. But those of us that need him are willing to do whatever it takes to get his attention. Well, that's not like Jesus. He won't just walk past you. Tell that to the disciples on a boat who were toiling for their life. And the Bible says, and Jesus walking on the water intended to pass by them, but they cried out to him. Tell that to a woman who had an issue of blood for 12 years, that Jesus was walking down the road and would have kept on walking had she not got a hold to the hem of his garment. Trust me, friend, your need does not move him. Your faith does. Your trust does. Lord, I need a miracle. That doesn't move him at all. Prove that, okay? 5,000 people. Can't feed any of them until one little boy believes that 5 loaves and 2 fish can feed 5,000 people. Tell me that ain't faith. We can feed them with this. 5 loaves, 2 fish. And faith feeds 5,000. Prove it. Jesus goes to a pool called Bethesda where there are many lame and sick waiting on the angel to trouble the water so they can be healed. And he looks at one man and said, do you want to be healed? And he said, I can't, because when the angels come and trouble the water, I'm not the first one into the pool. And he says, no, I can heal you right now. I can accelerate your season if you'll have faith. And one man gets healed and Jesus walks away and leaves the rest. Why? Because one man had faith. There was plenty of need. He's not moved by your need, friend. I wish he was. Why does Jesus allow starvation and famine and all that? Because he's not moved by need. He's moved by faith. Faith is the avenue for which his involvement happens. And the greatest form of faith is when you can't see where you're going and you have to trust that if he says he's here, whether I see him or not, I'm going to cry out for what he says is available for me. And hear me, friend. The preacher's telling you healing is available. You better cry out for healing if you need it. You don't have to see it. You don't have to know it. If you need deliverance, you better cry out for deliverance whether you see him or not. If you need, restoration, you don't have to see him. You just have to cry out and trust that you're crying. He will stop his movement to meet you where you're at. I know he will. He calls the man. He says, bring him to me. And blind Bartimaeus does something interesting. He stands up and he discards his coat. Why? Because in those days, coats and colors represented social status and a financial status. Blind people actually had to wear a certain color and certain type of cloth because it communicated to people that were blind. People with leprosy had to wear a certain kind of cloth and a certain color because color represented the certain disease you were in. And blindness was especially important because blindness was what the Jewish people believed was a result of only sin. Blindness was a result of sin and sin alone. That was the only reason for blindness. That's why when the disciples come to Jesus with the other man who was born blind, they say, was it the sin of this man or the sin of his parents that he was born blind? And Jesus says, neither, but for the glory of God. Why? Because the Jews believed that if you were blind, it was because of sin. And the Jews had a custom because of their belief system. If someone was blind because of their sin, the Jews would then agree with the judgment of God by causing them to be blind, by walking past the blind person and spitting on them. To spit on a blind person in a Jewish custom was actually a sign that showed you agreed with the judgment of God concerning their sin. You were coming into agreement with God to judge them as having sinned, and you spit on the person. So Jesus comes on the scene to deal not with just your issue, but to deal with your integrity, to deal with your heart, to deal with your trust, to deal with every part of you. So when a blind man comes to him and Jesus spits on the ground, it's not just because he's trying to do it a different way. It's because he's not just trying to heal the man's eyes, he's trying to heal the man's heart. Because every time the man heard someone begin to spit, he associated that to his judgment. So Jesus says, I'm not just going to deal with your issue of your blindness, I'm going to deal with the issue of your heart. word and heal you. But I'm not trying to heal you just to heal your body. I'm going to touch you because I know that the touch is restoring more than your skin. It's restoring your confidence in who you are. I'm going to touch you because nobody will touch you. And I'm going to show you that you are loved and you are necessary, not just healed. He calls Bartimaeus, and Bartimaeus throws off his garment. Why? Because he says, oh my God, he throws off the garment because his communication of being blind is no more. He says, I'm taking off the identity that everyone else identified me as. No longer can you look at me and see my issue. I'm no longer letting my issue identify me. I'm stepping into a new identity. So he throws off the old identity that says, I am a blind man. I am cursed because of my sin. He throws it off so that no one can identify him. And he is taken to Jesus. He still has an issue. He's still trusting that Jesus is who he says he is. He still has his issue. He still has the fear of rejection. He still has all of this. And Jesus heals the man of his blindness. He heals him instantly. And he exchanges a garment of judgment for a garment of sonship. Why? Because the man trusted that Jesus is who he says he is. Now here's why I have to tell you that. Because we can come in here week after week and we can believe everything we're told about him and never know him. We can believe everything we're told about him and never really know him. Do you know him? Like when we announced he was here, did you push through the crowd to find him? Or have you grown so numb? I'm working on this writing in my journal right now. And I'll probably spoil the whole thing by telling you this because that's really all there is I have. But do you know when Jesus is being scourged, it tells a story about the Roman centurion that is scourging Jesus, this Roman soldier. And if you go into the detail of what that looked like, I began to meditate on how desensitized do you have to be to Jesus that ripping him apart doesn't bother you. Because you know the first day on his job, he was puking in a bucket. You know the first day of beating a human to death, ripping his entrails out. You know that first day when he got home, he didn't want anything to eat. He didn't want to play with his kids. He didn't want to kiss his wife. He was moved by the things that he had encountered. But something happens over the course of time when you go through the religious obligation of doing things that you begin to not notice that what you're doing is actually hurting someone or something, and you could actually be having Jesus right in front of you and never know it. Because you've gotten numb to the process of life. Bartimaeus cries out. Jesus calls him forward. He heals him. His name is Bartimaeus. Bar is the prefix. Bartholomew. Bar Jonah. Bar means son of. Timaeus means a nobleman. His destiny was to be noble. But if he's blind, he can never be noble. And what Jesus does is he not only restores your ability to see him, but he restores your purpose. He restores your function. He restores your goals. He restores everything about who you are in your real identity. Because your identity is not blind person. Your identity is not diseased person. Your identity is not hurt person. Your identity is, come on, that's not your identity. Come on, your identity is noble. But the only way you can be noble is to, when he is here, cry out to him. We were in a moment just now, and I don't want you to be ignorant of the moment. I wrestled with how to even do this. But if we're going to do more than just stimulate you, and if you want more than just stimulation, you're going to have to realize that Jesus is visiting this place. Don't let him leave without you crying out to him and receiving what it is that your heart is crying for. in faith. How many of you have ever been absolutely healed in your body by the Lord? Anybody in the room at all? Stand to your feet if that's you. Now, those of you in the room that need a healing, you're making two conclusions. You're concluding that number one, they're lying, or number two, maybe he can heal me. That's the only two options you got right now. Either they're lying or he can heal me. Either one is worth the chance. If I need something in my body, the Bible says if there be any sick among you to call for the elders of the church and anoint with oil and pray the prayer of faith. If I need something in my body, I want someone who's been healed to pray for me. Come on, amen? Sit down. For men and women, and this is going to be hard for you to be transparent, but if the old man's dead, you can do that. If you've ever been healed from pornography addiction, stand up. I figured there'd be some women, because some of y'all have counseled you on it. Bunch of liars. Listen, if I'm struggling in shame with pornography addiction, and you say you can be free, and you're proof that that can happen, I want you praying for me. Because if I can't see him and you tell me it's real, I'm going to go after it. I'm going to trust your word. Sit down. How many of you have been delivered from addiction? Stand to your feet. Yeah, man. That's what I'm talking about. Come on. So either you're lying or it's real. Do y'all agree? Either they're lying to us or it's real. Now the question is, do you want to remain blind or do you want to be free? And if I want to be free and I know his story, crazy old mop head, I know his story. I know he's free. Because I know the struggle he has every day with that devil trying to get back on him. I know it's real because he hadn't quit. Come on, man. I know it's real because he hadn't quit. And if he hadn't quit, it's got to be real. And if it's real, I want you praying for me. Sit down. We've already talked about anxiety and things like that, but here's what I want to talk to you real quick. If you absolutely knew that Jesus was here to heal, set free, and save, and that's what you needed, whatever it is you needed, because he's not moved by your need, he's moved by your faith. That's why we ask you to come forward. It's a step of faith. It's not so we can embarrass you. But if you have a need, if you have an issue, listen, friend, the coat you're wearing is communicating one thing. You don't have to wear that. Some of you just need to be awakened. We sang that song Lazarus earlier. Some of you just need to know that he came to speak your name and wake you up. So here's what I'm asking you to do tonight. By faith, to look at your need. It may be a healing in your body, a healing in your family, a healing whatever, of any kind of physical, spiritual, or emotional. It may be deliverance. It may be freedom from addiction. Some of you, listen, I'm not saying smoking cigarettes is a sin, but some of you really want to quit. And you feel like you can't. I promise you, you can. Some of you, alcoholism is an addiction to you, and it embarrasses you, and it shames you, and you wish you could really, really give it up. But every day it's tempting you, and it's calling you, and you're bowing down to it. Why? Because you're blind. I'm telling you, he can free you of that. Those are little things. Those are so little that I don't even really care about them. I don't even care about that. He can handle that. Come on. If we're supposed to raise the dead, I think he can handle that. Here's here's what I'm asking. If you're in this room tonight and you are tired of hearing about him, and you just want to really, really let him touch you, whatever the need is, I want you very quickly, with all boldness and faith, stand to your feet. Amen. Amen. Come on, man. Don't you know heaven is like dancing crazy? And hell is like throwing fits. I'm going to wait because there's at least 2 more. Stay standing, don't sit down. If that's you. You don't have to. You can stay on the road blind. That's the beauty of this. You can let him walk by. Some people like begging. If you don't beg, you have to work. Yeah, amen. I'm telling you. Russ, I've had you on my heart all night. And even when I was praying for you earlier, I just felt the burden of the Lord over you. I feel like the Lord wants to not only open a new door, but close an old one. And I feel like the Lord, even tonight, highlighting you, I feel like he wants to close old doors that were easier for you to walk through. And I'm going to tell you right now, going back to certain things is going to make you miserable. And you're going to try it, but you're going to be miserable in it. And so I just believe even right now the Lord is healing you of certain things that are between you and him, and he's healing you of those things that even though on the outside they've identified you, they're being broken off even right now. I'm going to tell you the coat don't fit anymore. I'm going to tell you the coat don't fit anymore. Everybody else who's standing, come and join us right down here on this line. Yeah. I don't want the prayer team. I want... That's a good word. I don't want the prayer team. Where's the rest of the strugglers at? I want this. If you're willing to admit what you need specific prayer for, because I want people that have been delivered from what you're struggling with to pray for you. How many of you are just struggling with fear and doubt? Anybody? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, that's about half the room. Tell you what, let's go with my original thought. I want some people who are gifted in the prophetic and on our leadership team. It's a vet. Come on. Who else is prophetic? I hate having to call you by name. Come on. Get up. Jesus. I want you guys to minister to them. Now let me teach you real quick about the prophetic. And I've been in a lot of prophetic things. The prophetic is not just the Lord reading your mouth, it's also instruction. There's always an if to the then. Okay? So it's not the Lord wants to heal you, it's the Lord wants to heal you if you're willing to. There's always an if. There's always an if. Every prophetic word had an if attached to it. If a prophet gives you a word that just says, I just see blah, blah, blah over you, and doesn't tell you the if that you're supposed to do, right? Right? Name it. You'll be healed if you dip 7 times, right? Widow, you're going to have plenty of food if you'll make me a cake first. If, there's always an if attached to it, always. And I want you guys to be prophetic over this. Matthew, junior prophet, get up. Christopher, get down here. Hey, I'm having to call y'all out. Y'all a bunch of bums. So they're gonna. I just want you to stay here in this atmosphere. You're not allowed to leave until you give an offering or tithe, and then you can leave after that. And I'm not kidding, because we got bills to pay. But I'm gonna release them, and if you need prayer for anything after we're done with it, we're done after this. We'll email you the announcements or whatever you need to know. But I want you to, if you need prayer for anything, we're going to stay in these altars a little while, and and we're going to minister. And this is going to be difficult. It's going to be different because we're not getting all emotional and trying to stimulate you and throw you on the ground. We're going to go to the root of some things. We're going to give you the if that God will. I had a word one time for someone that couldn't have a baby. It was a friend of mine. It was actually, I'm not going to tell you who it was. It was a friend of mine. And I told them, if you'll eat natural things for 1 month, God will, if you'll put natural things in the womb, God will put something naturally in your womb. But they couldn't do it. They did it one day. There's always an if attached. If I just said God wants to give you a baby, you know how disappointing that is to someone who won't walk in obedience? Right. Then they question God because why? Because we're not being real prophetic. So the Lord's going to highlight some things tonight for you. And you're going to have to be willing to close doors and walk through open ones. All right? They're going to take their time. Don't get bored. Just stay here. Everybody needs to be ministered to. Go ahead. Just start being led to these people that are up here. Just start being led to them. I'm going to hand Mr. Paul the offering bucket. He's our usher for tonight. You can hand it to Lakin or somebody. She's prettier. So. Just keep an atmosphere of worship while we're doing this. Keep your eyes focused on Jesus.
You
Amen.